Students, sum of amount is which function?
Aggregate function.
Aggregate function. So here I am using aggregate because I want the total sum. For that, loan relation with amount, right? So select sum of amount from the loan where I have to find out in terms of branch. So loan dot branch name is equal to branch dot branch name. Okay, so these two tables I am joining here. Select star from branch I am using here and loan I am using here. I am joining them together. Initially I will find out the sum of amount, loan amount. Okay, in second part, forget about this part, greater than equal. Second part, I am just finding the sum of deposit amount, that is the sum of amount from account. From account, the amount will be deposited amount, right? Where account dot branch name is equal to branch dot branch name. Why I am considering here this joining condition? Because I required here select star from branch using this data. So I have to join that table also. Now, here I will check loan amount is greater than equal to deposit amount, total amount. Okay, deposit amount. If it is greater, then I am writing select star from branch where this condition is satisfied. But the condition is not satisfied. So not exist. Not exist condition and exist condition we have seen whether this is true or false. Okay, so my constraint which I am checking that this should not, there should not exist anything in this whatever I have written, that is a loan amount greater than equal to deposit amount. That constraint I am creating using the assertion. So it will every time check whenever you are going to give a loan, it will check with this assertion constraint. And if it is crossing the limit, then definitely it will trigger out in terms of assertion that you cannot, the bank cannot provide the loan. Okay, so this is one case. Second case you can see here. Every loan has at least one borrower who maintains an account with a minimum balance of $1,000 or rupees. We will consider right now rupees. So now here I have to find out that every loan has at least one borrower. If there is a loan account created, definitely if loan account is created, then there has to be a borrower. Otherwise that account will not be created. If the account number is there, means for that person somebody has taken a loan till the loan account is closed, right? So if loan account is there, then there must be at least one borrower for that particular account with minimum balance of so and so. So for this again, creating the assertion, any name you can give, check with this is my condition, not exist. Again I am writing in the same fashion, select star from loan. Where not exists, select star from borrower, depositor and account. Okay, that match why these three things are taken. Loan matching with borrower, loan table matching with borrower table using the loan number attribute, borrower table matching with customer name with depositor and customer name. We have to find out the customer name also, at least one customer, right? So for that purpose I am taking this depositor so that I'll get the customer name who is having the loan account in a bank. Okay, as well as the account table who is having the deposit account in a bank. Okay, and account balance greater than 1,000. So this is about, this is these are two examples given. Here you can again go ahead with different ways. Just a simple example. Till now for practical exam we have not asked assertion for a practical exam, but even in exam they have not asked you to write the query, or not a single question they have asked on assertions. So but still you should be prepared with at least the theory part for the assertion, why to use assertion and all. Based on this part, constraint part, one part they asked, these are other example of assertion. Right now I'll not go through all examples. You can go through this example later on, and then accordingly you can tell me if you are having any doubt. So here example is sum of loan taken by a customer does not exist the particular amount, that is 1 lakh it is asked. So creating assertion, checking that 1 lakh greater than equal to all, find out that sum of loan amount. Okay. Similarly, this is other example, number of account for each customer in a given branch is at most 2. So restricting that one customer cannot have more than, uh, in a given branch in at most 2. The customer account restricted to 2. At most means maximum 2. Okay. Similarly, customer city is always not null. So that is written. So accordingly, you can create the constraint. Now, based on that assertion, important part from this module is trigger. Many times they ask the question from the trigger, even for practical exam, even for your theory exam. Theory exam, they may ask you the question, short note on trigger for 10 marks. They have not yet asked the query, write a trigger for whatever the situation, but they have asked the theory part, 10 marks. So according to that, we will prepare for you. So trigger, what is a trigger then? Trigger is nothing but a mechanism for monitoring database from application. Okay, it is a mechanism for monitoring database from your application. Okay, now you will find out that it is somewhat similar to assertion, but no, there is a difference between assertion and trigger. We'll see that at the end. So a trigger is a statement that is executed automatically by the system as a side effect of a modification to the database. For what purpose you are writing the trigger? So if there is any violation with that particular thing, automatically the trigger will get executed for that particular situation. So this statement or definition you have to write as it is. Don't write in your own word. A trigger is a statement that is executed automatically by the system as a side effect of a modification to the database. Okay, we will revise. I hope you will give answer at that time. To design a trigger mechanism, basically what you require. So to design a trigger, specify the condition under which the trigger is to be executed. So you have to find out for which condition you want the trigger to get executed. Right? So condition is very important. Specify the action to be taken when the trigger executes. So once the trigger executes, what action you want to appear. So that action is important. So remember these words, condition, action, and one more word is required here. Trigger introduced in SQL standard in 1999, but the exact term trigger introduced in 1999, but before that also we were using something in SQL that is a non-standard syntax, okay, by the database. That is some sort of, those were actually some sort of, or like a trigger it was. But there was no name given for trigger, or we were applying the condition on all that. Then those were like a trigger that time, before this 1999. Then in 1999, the trigger term introduced. Now, these are the three components for a trigger, important component. One is event, condition, action. So in exam, sometimes they will not ask you direct question that write short note on trigger. It is also asked, but other type of question they may ask you, explain ECA model. ECA model means event, condition, action means trigger. Remember this. Okay. So don't get confused if the question is like ECA model or event, condition, action in trigger. All of these will have a same answer, that is about the trigger. Okay, so three components of a trigger are: one is event. When this event happens, the trigger is activated. What are the events? We will see on next slide. So first is when the event occurs, trigger get activated. Okay, then condition. If the condition is true, the trigger executes. Otherwise, it will skip that part and it will continue to run the database query. Okay, so if condition is true, then only trigger executes. If trigger gets activated, if the event occur, but if condition, after that it will check for the condition. If it is true, then only trigger get executed. Okay, and finally, once the trigger get executed, the action performed by the trigger. Okay, so all these three things are you can write together like this. When the event occurs and condition is true, this is important. When the event occurs and condition is true, the action executes. Okay, this is common law of just combining these three things for your ECA. Right? So now what all are event, what all are condition, what action can be taken and everything. So we'll see the components of that. Events. These are three events. One is insert, update and delete. We already know that. We are inserting means we are inserting something new, adding something new. Updating, we are modifying something. Delete, we are removing something. Right? So these are known as event types of a trigger. Okay, now this event, triggering event times, there are two triggering times. One is before the event occur and other is after the event occur. Before, we can write before insert, before update, before delete, or after insert, after update, after delete. So two triggering times. You can write to create trigger before insertion. So you should check this, or before update you should do this, or after update you should update this. Whatever. Okay. So that is these are known as a triggering time. Next is granularities. What are granularities? There are two granularities. One is execute for each row and execute for each statement. Again, this part we will learn in detail. I have added that slide for that. So there only I will explain this. How to write a trigger. Okay. Now, general syntax I am covering. Okay. It is a create trigger. Then you will write a trigger name. Create trigger, trigger name. Fine. Then you will have the before, after, either before or after. Okay. Insert, update, delete. Any one of the event, or you can write go two event, three event together. No problem. Okay. But from before or after, you have to use only one word. These three can be written together or one or two, whatever you want at that time. On table name. So here you can see this is my trigger name and these are my event. And this is my triggering time. Clear till here? The first part of the trigger, creating an event in a trigger. So we'll see example for that. Create trigger ABC. ABC is the name of my trigger. Before insert on student. So I have created a trigger ABC before insert on student, and further it is not complete. Okay, I am just covering line wise for your understanding. This trigger which we have created, we have used the before triggering event and on insert on the table name, right? So trigger is activated when an insert statement is issued. If someone is trying to insert in your database table student. Okay, but before the new record is inserted, it will fire the trigger. That is whatever you have written further, that will get executed first. Maybe checking or whatever you will write inside the trigger. So trigger will get fired before inserting the value which is asked by the particular user. Okay, so this is before insert. Similarly, if it is after, create trigger XYZ after update on student. So this trigger will get trigger activated when an update statement is issued and that the update is executed. Means once the update is executed, you continue with further whatever is mentioned in my trigger. Update it or not, whatever. So right, the word before and after are very important. If you don't want any unauthorized user to insert into your database, you can create a trigger that notify to so and so if somebody tries to insert. So that also you can do. Okay. This is about the first part, event. Granularity of event. Now, a single SQL statement may update, delete or insert many records at the time, right? Suppose I want to update, I'm selecting one column, that is increasing the salary, for example. So here I will update all the columns of that, right? So here, instead of executing, checking or updating one statement to get or row, what I will say, run or apply this trigger or update all the rows. That is, trigger should be applied to all the rows, all statement of update together, right? So in that case, you can go for this granularity. So does the trigger execute for each updated or deleted record or once for the entire statement? That is, just now I said to execute for all together. So for that, these granularities are created. It is written as for each row, for each statement. Okay, for each row means for every row you check and then only update. For each statement, whatever complete statement is there, execute and apply to all. So that is for each statement. Usually for update, you go for each statement. When it is for deleting, you can go for each row. Okay. So this is about the granularities example. You can see here it is written creating trigger, previous example only, after update on table name for each statement. I have used after updating but for each statement. So what will happen here? Trigger will get activated based on this, but per update statement after all records are updated. Every update statement you will get and all records will get updated. Each and every update statement, all the statement of update you will consider together and you will apply those to all the records who are suitable for that update. Okay, similarly, here you can see create trigger XYZ before delete on, means before deleting ask for my confirmation or whatever I will write. For each row before deleting, apply the trigger for each row, means whatever I will write inside that, do it for every row. Maybe store the old the value somewhere else before deleting or so on. So that is, this trigger is activated before deleting each record. Okay, so because once you delete, you will not get that back. So you, for that, again you can create a backup and everything, whatever you want. That is done in this situation. Second part. So first part is clear, everyone. We are having 3 types of event. Which are those events? Okay, I think I need to ask the questions. Okay, student, which are the 3 types of events we just studied?
Insert, update, and delete.
Insert, update, and delete. Correct. And triggering times. How many triggering times are there?
Before and after.
2. Before and after. Correct. And then granularities.
For each row and for each column.
For each statement. Correct. So these are till now we have covered here. So I'll continue. Second part. So second part is a trigger condition now. Now we have done with the event part, right? Creating trigger, then triggering time, then triggering event, and then granularities. After that, you have to write the condition. Now this writing the condition is optional part. Okay, this is not compulsory that you have to write some condition. Just execute. If this is happen, if this event is there, you continue. So when condition, and then further whatever is there. So now here. Just one example for this, if when I am having a condition, if the employee's salary greater than 1,50,000, then some action will be taken. Whatever action, I right now I don't bother about the action. I just want to write till the condition part, right? So my trigger will look like this. Creating trigger, give the name for the trigger. I have given here employee salary. After insert or update on employee. Okay, because after update maybe the salary get increased with this value greater than this value. Okay, after insert or update on employee table for each row, every row, because for every employee salary I want to check and I have to take some action, right? So I am using for each row. When here now you have to use the words that is a new or old. Okay, whether you want to use the value of just updated value or old value before that. So these two keywords you can use. One is old or second is new. So I'm using your new dot salary, means after update whatever or insert whatever salary is there. Okay, so new dot salary greater than so and so, the value. And then whatever further part, I don't know. Right now, till condition I have written. Clear? So here in condition you can use two words. One is an old, you can refer the two words. One is a old dot and second is a new dot salary. Dot is nothing but just to connect with that particular attribute in this situation. Right? So that is about the condition. As I said, this component is optional. Third part is action. We have done event. Once you have defined the event, you will write about the condition if it requires.
Hello, ma'am. For this trigger action, you have to create a trigger table, no?
No, if you have already created table, you can refer those table if you want to create the this trigger on that table. If you want to apply the trigger on the new table, then only you have to create a table. But usually when we are having the database, we have already defined the schema and created table, then only you can apply the trigger. Why you require a new table? Okay. So third part is action. Action depends on what you want to do. This part is very important in trigger because here you are going to apply the changes, right? Action. You are going to take the action on whatever you are getting in condition and from the event. Check certain values. So action can be one of these, any one of these. These are few listed. Check certain value. Check the value. For example, if salary is greater than so and so, check the customer name. Whatever. This is just example I am giving. Fill in some value. If the my condition I am checking that the value is none, then put some value in that. Rough value or any garbage value, whatever. So that is one. Insert, deletes, updates the record. If value is greater than so and so, delete the records or copy the record. So insert those record in some other table or update this value. Reduce the value by so and so. Check that some business constraints are satisfied. So that is again then you have to write down those constraints and commit. If that value is greater, okay, commit it. Don't do anything. If value is greater than this, roll back, means store the old value. Don't store this new value. Cancel the transaction. If suppose my question is like salary of the employee should not increase 1,50,000 or it is the highest salary. So if it is going beyond that, then what I can do? If it is going beyond that, then what I can do? 1 minute. DBMS में sorry, it was related with the subject call only, so I told that. So about the trigger action, once it is final, any one of these can be the action. In the action, you may want to refer colon new and colon old. These are the keywords you require to be used in action. When you are using this word, just remember, when you are using this word in condition, at that time, don't use the colon keyword. when you are using this keyword in action, then you have to use it such as colon new and colon old. Okay, so now here colon new, the new values to be inserted or updated record, and colon old as the old values for deleted or updated. Definitely for insert, old values will not be there, right? Deleted value, that old value just now I want to delete. So you can refer those update and delete, and for new you can refer for insert or updated. Okay, so now with the example we'll go ahead. In action, you may want to refer as this is done. See the example till here we did. When new dot salary greater than equal to 1,50,000. Now in this situation, I told you just now, when it is a part of condition, don't use the colon before the keyword new and old. Okay, and when after this where condition I have to write about the action, so that is my trigger body, that is I will write in the part of begin and end. Okay, inside this whatever you have to write, you want to write, that you can write such as begin and end. I am writing if. For this I have written if colon new dot salary less than equal to so and so. Okay, this is just one example I have taken. It is not related with particular question. So here you required this colon keyword. Okay, this is just remember as a part of when you are putting new and old in condition, don't use colon. When you are referencing the value in trigger body or as a part of action, use the colon. Now, this is about the using the old and new keyword references. For insert event has only new defined. Definitely when you are going for insertion, you will have new values, right? You cannot have old values. Delete, you will have only old values. For delete, you will not have a new value. And for update, you will have both the values, new and old. Triggering update values as a new, changing old values does not make any sense. That is before triggering, before insert or before update. That time just update the values in new before insert or before update. When you are going for before insert or update statement, then at that time old values are not there, right? New value I want before insert or update. These are my new values. So new is useful over there. For after triggering timing, that is should change the new because the event is already taken place after. So that time you can refer the new only. So this right now with the example you will understand it more about the statement level trigger, which I have already explained you. So that is use referencing old table or referencing new table. Fine. So that I will go ahead with the example. Now see here, the question one is given. I will give answer for one example one. You will give me the answer for second one. Okay. If the employee salary increased by more than 10%, if the employee salary increased by more than 10%, make sure the rank field is not empty and its value has changed. Otherwise, reject the update. So first understand the question properly. Employee salary increased by more than 10%. Make sure the rank field is not empty. Means some rank has to be given to that employee and its value has changed. Otherwise, reject the update. So here, which event you require? Which event you require? Just based on the question. Can anyone tell me which event we have to consider here?
After insert.
I'm not update. Otherwise, the update. Yes.
Update, madam. Update.
Update. It is mentioned in this, right? Increasing with 10%. Mean definitely we are doing the update. So for that, your trigger will look like this. I was trying to put one line, but it is coming put together, so no problem. Create or replace trigger. Now here I am also using this word or replace. Why? Because sometimes we must have created a trigger some time long back ago, and then we don't know exactly what we have done on this particular table. So in case suppose the same name of the trigger is there, that you can replace it. Okay, so create or replace the trigger name. So this is just word you have to add. So if trigger is not there, it will create it. It is already there, it will replace that trigger. But if you are confused that I don't know exact name of my previous trigger, but it is not related with that, and I must have given the same name, then in that case you can just say create trigger. But the thing is that in trigger, if both the triggers are giving the same condition, then it will not get executed. It will say there is a violation because you cannot have the same trigger two times. Right? So in that case, you have to first identify that how many triggers you have created. So create or replace trigger with trigger name. Before update on employee. Employee is my table name and this EMP sal is my trigger name. Remember, this is very important because if you want to drop this trigger, you require the trigger name. So you can drop the trigger same way the table we are dropping, drop trigger name. During practical, I think many a time you will face problem while creating a trigger. So that time, many time you require to drop it and again we have to create. So that we will see when we'll work with the practical. Maybe next week onwards we'll work with the practical. Today just now sir called me for that purpose only. For your software which you are not able to, because I am not able to share the exe of WAM server. So some other way we are finding, creating link and something, then you can download and you can install. That I'll let you know once it is done. So for each row, I'm checking the salary of every employee. So I'm applying for each row as a granularity. This is begin and end is my trigger body. And at the end, this is I have written. I will show you that I have written. If the trigger exists, drop it first and then create a new one. Okay. Now next is, this is from begin to end is my triggering body. Okay, so here trigger body, I am writing my action, what I want to check and what I want to do with that. If, what is my condition? Employee salary increase by so and so. So here you should know the column name of your employee table. So always before starting working with the table, just write select star from employee. So you will get all the column name as well as with the values. Okay, sorry. So I will write colon new dot salary. I have not mentioned here condition outside this trigger body. I am using here only for checking. Colon new dot salary greater than colon old salary into 1.1. What I am doing? Salary is whatever new dot salary which I am getting greater than old dot salary into 1.1 means 10% increased. 10. Okay, if new dot salary is greater than if whatever my old dot salary with this, then new dot rank is my one of the column is none, or colon new dot rank is equal to old dot rank. What I am doing, if new dot rank is null, that is field is not empty and its value has changed, equal to old dot rank, sorry, new dot rank is equal to old dot rank. So I am checking whether the rank is null or the new dot rank, new rank is same as the old rank, where they have said it should not be empty and it should not have the same rank which was their old rank. So I'm checking if it is there, salary is greater but the ranks are same or rank is null, then I will say raise a error. So this is a common syntax for this to get the error. Raise underscore application underscore error. This is one number you have to mention, that is user defined error. -2004 I have given. This is a range. So I will just show you the range for that. 1 minute. I have kept it here in your notes part so that you will get that with you here. The range should be in between -20,000 to -29,999. So this range you can put user defined error, any error which you want to display after this trigger. Okay, so anything you can write here, rank field not correct, which I have mentioned. So that way,
Ma'am, any range works.
yeah, this range, any value works in that range.
Okay.
So here in place of this up to 2999, I can put anything 20 or 010, anything, any value. Means we are indicating that I want to put my comment here for this user defined error, this statement. Okay, otherwise if they are already having their own numbers, specific numbers for the error which they want to show, so they will give those. So if we want our own, so we have to specify that. So this is about that range. So you can put any number from that range which just now I showed, and this is the end of if loop. Then ending my trigger body. This is the end. Make sure you have put this slash, forward slash, to end my command, that I have completely ended my trigger. This end is just end of my trigger body, but for complete trigger that I have done entirely. Okay, this is example on trigger which we have created just now based on this example. Anyone is having any doubt in this example? So I will give you one example, then you will try. So we'll go ahead. Check this. If the employee's salary increased by more than 10%, then increment the rank field by 1. Do one thing, copy this question, and then I will show you the reference of previous example so that you will get help for that. Just copy this question, everyone. Then I will show you the example one solution so that at least you will, because this is your first lecture on trigger, so I cannot expect everything, that exact answer you will get. But at least with the example is shown to you, you can try by yourself. It is not more much difference. I have taken the similar type of example for that. Done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Refer this and write your example, and then we will check. I'll just skip this slide, so don't worry. Wait. See, the range value is this, -20,000 to -29,999. Any value you can put in that. Okay, shall we check? Or you need time? Okay, anyone would like to share or just speak up with your answer? Others will cross check with their answer. Then I will show you final answer. Okay, I'll go ahead. So this was our first question. Now second question is this. If the employee's salary increased by more than 10%, means somewhat similar to previous one. Then increment the rank field by 1. Means here, till here you will have this same part. Then this part you have to modify. So what you have to do here in this situation, just tell me about this bracket. As per the question, then yes.
New rank is equal to
New rank is equal to
new old rank plus 1.
plus 1, correct. So we have to do that only changes in this trigger, second question, because everything is similar to previous one. So now the based on that, till here it is same. If condition, then my new rank colon new dot rank is equal to colon old dot rank plus 1. Okay, and if and done. Now here some new things are there. You can see here. I have added here previous one. I'll just show you here. Here I have just written equal to, but when we are going for the PL/SQL language, okay, this is somewhat PL/SQL language which we are using for a trigger. Not exactly, but the syntax something like that. Sometimes it is not accepting this equal to. So there you have to use a colon equal to. Okay, but till now I have not used the equal to. Our WAM server accepts with the equal to, so we'll go ahead with that. Second thing, here, before update on employee is okay, no problem with that. But specifically if you want to do on particular column, then you have to mention with of that attribute name. So before update of the column attribute column name as salary on my table employee. Okay, this is of salary is optional. Okay, when we are specifying it, I'll exactly come to know what I am doing. But it is optional. If you are not mentioning, still it is okay, because it will go to your table and from here it will check with that particular column. Fine. So only thing what we have to do, first part is same, where we are checking with the new salary increment by this. Then we, instead of checking the second condition, I have just given increment the rank. So new dot rank is equal to old dot rank plus 1. That's it. Here I am not putting any application error, because I am just saying apply this. Don't fire any error. Just apply this, do this. If it is there, then increment the rank by 1. Okay. So this is the second example. So these are just for your understanding I have added. Now here, these are few examples which I have just added. Sometimes it is giving like SQL, old example. This is for referencing the old part of SQL. So I've just taken this for your understanding previously how they used to do. We will not go through this right now. I've just added different way. It is MS-SQL. Different syntax for that. Okay. So that is about the syntax. Don't bother about that. Now, when not to use trigger. This part also you need to write in your exam. So when I'll definitely say for your exam, whatever I have covered, do that properly. You will get each and every answer. Okay, when not to use a trigger, that is first part. Triggers were used earlier for tasks such as maintaining summary data. That is whatever summary of your database you want to maintain that. So for that purpose, previously triggers were used. Secondly, triggers were used for replicating the database by recording changes to special relation and having a separate process that applies the changes over the replica. That is just taking a backup of that of your data and just replicating the data somewhere else. Whatever changes you are doing here will get affected over there. But now the technology is so advanced that to maintain the summary we don't require to use the trigger. That is actually not a purpose of creating a trigger, right? Because there are reasons for that. Now every database provides inbuilt materialized view facility. This materialized view is nothing but it gives the facility of preparing or maintaining the summary of your data. So for that purpose, when inbuilt it is providing the facility, don't create your trigger or don't use the trigger for just creating the summary. Okay. Second part, that is a replication of database or replicating the database. All databases now provide built-in support for replication also. So again, only for replicating the database, don't use create a trigger. Okay. Third part, encapsulation facilities can be used instead of trigger in different cases, such as defining methods to update the fields. Just to update the field, you can just create a method instead of creating a table. Carry out action as part of update method instead of using the trigger. So there are cases where don't unnecessary don't get confused or don't use the extra thing on your database. Wherever you require trigger actually for the use of trigger, use it there only. Otherwise, where you have already app option in your database that is like inbuilt facility, then don't create extra things on your database. That is a trigger and everything. Okay, now about the assertion. We just saw assertion and trigger in today's session, right? So here, assertion do not modify the database. Oh, sorry, data. Whereas they only check the certain condition. As just now we saw, they check whether this is there or not. They are not updating anything. They are not modifying your database. Whereas your trigger are more powerful because they can check condition as well as they can perform the modification of your data, right? So assertion and trigger, if in case till now they have not asked the difference of assertion and trigger, but be ready with that answer also if it is not asked particularly for difference, but you can add this as a part of your trigger answer. Okay. First part, trigger is also check the particular condition as well as it apply modify the data, whereas assertion cannot. Assertions are not linked to specific tables in the database and not linked to specific events, whereas your trigger is specifically related with particular table, particular event, and also you can say particular column. Just now we saw salary column. So trigger is related with that, but assertion is not linked to anything of this. All assertion can be implemented as trigger. Once you have created the assertion, you can write trigger for that particular thing. But all triggers cannot be implemented as assertion. Few can be, but not all. Only the things where you are checking the particular condition, there you can convert those trigger into the assertion. But not all triggers can be implemented as a assertion. And this is about the Oracle does not have assertion facility right now. So now this is one example. In this, you can create a trigger, but you cannot create assertion for this, where it is for before insert event, and the example of that is just given for your understanding. Okay, now that is about the trigger assertion part, which was one of the part. They have asked us to cover this as your practical part, and then take one of the trigger example for that. So definitely I will take that also, but then I will not teach you again this. You have to prepare yourself. That time, whichever is a question, with that we will go ahead. Don't worry about that. But instead of that, I am covering everything in theory part. As they said, they will also ask the question in final exam. But in your syllabus, remember, in your syllabus, they have not specifically added the trigger part. They have added the trigger part in SQL lab. I don't know why they have done like this, but when due to we asked the question from student point that whether you will ask the question from trigger in theory exam or not. They said yeah, we will ask. So student, be prepared with that. We'll start with next point also for SQL, because we have, this is a big chapter. Authorization in SQL. Already we have studied we know that what things we can do, update, delete, based on the events, right? So there are some permissions, mechanism. What is authorization, right? It is a mechanism for controlling applications, or you can say your own users, access to your database. Whom to give access to your database? Who all can access my database? Who all can perform the modification to my database? Who can just read the database? Who can delete everything? Right? These all permissions. When you want to give, that is known as authorization. Okay, so for that the definition is mechanism for controlling applications or users access to the database, or controlling the access of the user to the database. Okay, forms of authorization on part of database. One is read authorization. Read authorization means what? I am saying the person can read the database. He can see the database, he can read the database, but person cannot modify my database. So read authorization, if I am giving, means everyone can read it. So, or whoever I am giving that permission, you can read only. You cannot modify, right? Second one, insert authorization, means giving permission to insert the new data, but you cannot modify, you cannot do anything with my old data. That is, but not modification of existing data. That is insert. With the name itself, you will come to know. But the thing is that when you are saying insert authorization, in exam, what students are writing, user can insert the data. But what user cannot do with this insert, that also important. But no modification. That is important here, right? Next, update. Update means you can modify, but you cannot delete anything. You modify whatever you want, but you don't delete any data. A complete row, definitely, when we are deleting. And delete means you can delete. Here, there is no need to write update or insert part. Only you can delete. Now, these are few forms of authorization to modify the database. Previous was just to accessing the database to performation. When we are saying modification of the database, again there are further operations. One is index authorization. Index authorization is nothing but allows creation and deletion of indices. What is index? That we will see as one of the part they have added in this chapter. So at the end of this chapter, I will cover, actually that index is nothing but completely two big chapters as per Cont'd and Navate. But for your syllabus, they have just added one small part. So they said just cover the basic. So let's see how much time we get, how much I can cover. I'll try to cover as much as I can. So that is about the index authorization given to the user to create the indices. If we are creating the indices, then it is easy to access the data. Okay. Resource authorization. That is nothing but creating the new relation, new tables. That is usually DBA used to do. If I want to give particular user that, okay, you can also create the relations, you can also create the tables, then I'll say resource authorization. Okay, third one is alteration authorization, that you can alter my database. When we are saying alter, you can add or you can delete. particular attributes of my relation. We have studied alter table name, add a column name, that is attribute, similar way. So that is alteration authorization, giving permission to add or delete the attributes in your relation. Okay. Drop authorization, deleting your complete relation. Okay. Again, this drop you can use with the help of alter to drop particular column. Okay, alter table name, drop column name. Then we are having references authorization. References authorization is nothing but, or whenever the word references is coming, consider this is related with the foreign key. Ability to declare the foreign keys when creating the relation. So when you're giving this resource authorization to any one of the user, it is always better to give this references authorization also, because when you're creating a relation, definitely you that time only you can create the foreign key. But if you are not giving this permission, then user can only create the table with the attributes of that table without referencing any other table. So for that, again, then you have to perform by yourself, or later on you have to add the foreign key. Next is uses authorization. Authorize a user to use a specified domain. Okay, specified domain, whatever domains you want to your user to use, tell the user that you can use only these domains for my particular system. So that is uses authorization. Privileges in SQL. The privileges are select, insert, update and delete. These privileges you can give to the user. We have already studied this part somewhere in our previous module of this chapter, right? Previous part of the SQL. Where can anyone tell me this privilege word where we have studied? In our previous SQL module part. If anyone remember. We have studied the privileges in SQL in one of the language. Now you will get the answer.
Data definition language.
In data definition language, we have not used privileges.
Oh, sorry, data that
Control.
yeah, data control.
Yes, data control language, we have used the grant and revoke. So that time we have studied this all privileges in SQL with whether to all or whether for particular user list. Remember? So similar thing we are going to learn here. That is, those were also the authorization, permission using the grant and revoke. But now here you can use these particular privileges. Select allows read access to the user or user list. Okay, so here I can say, see a grant word is there, now you will come to know. So grant users, when you are giving the authorization, you have to use the keywords, sorry, commands grant, and when you want to take out those authorization, you have to use a command revoke. So that there I have just given standard format, not in detail. Here we are covering in detail. So grant users, that is username is U1, U2 and U3. Select or privilege authentication on the branch relation. This is the question part. So I want to give the privilege as a select to the user U1, U2 and U3 and permissions, right? Authorization. So I'm writing grant which privilege I want to give, that is a select privilege, which table, authorization on branch relation. So table name is branch, on branch table, to user list U1, U2 and U3. Same thing we have studied in data control language general syntax. There I have covered only 2 slides. Insert, the ability to insert the tuples. That is again in place of select, I can write insert. You can give 2 privileges together, and if you want to give these privileges, select, insert, update and delete, then you just mention all privileges. Okay, so that the user can do insert, read, insert, update as well as delete the tuple. Okay, and this now I'm not explaining what is update and delete, it is self-explanatory. Now authorization specification in SQL. So to grant state, this already we studied. Grant means what? I'm giving the permission, giving the authorization, right? Grant privilege list, that is a select, insert, update, delete anyone or all on relation name or view name. It can be on view also to the user list. This is general syntax. As username, user ID, public or a role. Public means everyone. Granting a privilege on view does not imply granting any privileges on the underlying relation. Suppose I have created a view on table branch. Right now we have considered branch, so I will take that only. I have created a view on table branch and I am giving the privilege on my view, that is update or whatever, on the created view. So if you are giving the privilege on that view, it doesn't mean that the user can also apply those privileges on your table branch. Reverse is not possible. Branch is your main table. Okay, so remember, if you are giving any privilege on view, it is not mean that it is also applicable on the main table. The grantor of the privilege must already hold the privilege on the specified item. When I want to give the privilege to particular user, for example U1, then I have to get that privilege first. Then only I can forward it to the second person. Again, there are some constraints for that we'll see. But first I need to hold the privilege, then only other person. So always your privilege will start from the database administrator, because he is the one who is having all authorization. Then he will give to the second person, then second will carry forward, and so on. So it is again the keywords you have to use here, cascade, when you want to carry forward. That we'll see. So here I have written complete privilege with grant option. Okay, so now here allows the user who is granted a privilege to pass the privilege on to other user. When I am giving as a DBA, suppose I am DBA, so I am saying grant select on branch to your whole class. That is your ID I will mention here, U1, U2, U2 up to 62, 63. Then after that, if I am writing with grant option, means you can now pass on this privilege, select privilege to anyone else. Clear? When I am specifying with grant option, means now I am giving you permission that whatever privilege I have given you, you can carry forward that privilege to someone else. Okay, so that is possible here with grant option. Now here, with this granting privilege, there is one graph which is known as a authorization graph. Okay, to give the privileges. The passing of authorization from one user to another can be represented with this graph, that is known as authorization graph. Now here all these U1, U2, U3, U4, U5 and DBA, all these are known as the nodes of the graph. Okay, these nodes are users. So here you, when you are specifying this authorization graph, you have to specify that these all U1, U2 are nodes of the graph, which are users. Okay, and the root is nothing but always a database administrator. He will give privilege to someone and then you can forward it to other person. Okay, now here in this graph, update authorization on loan. Consider the graph for updating authorization on loan. And age, UI to UJ. Consider anyone, U1 to U4 or U1 to U5, whatever. Just first part is UI, second part is UJ. It means UI is already holding the update authorization on loan, and then he is giving that authorization to the second person. For example, consider DBA UI and U1 is UJ. DBA is holding all the authorization. So now DBA is going to give, DBA is going to give update authorization to U1. So DBA will give the update to U1 and so on, whatever further thing. Just understanding what is the graph. So here this arrow is very important to So reading is not U1 is giving to DBA. DBA is giving to U1. Arrow towards the second person. Now, properties of this authorization graph. All edges in authorization graph must be part of some path originating from the database administrator. You can see here. Every edge, somewhere it is starting from DBA. Go from here, check it is reaching to the DBA. If it is not, then it is not a valid authorization. Somewhere you are getting the false authorization or it is not a authorization, proper authorization. If DBA revokes grant from U1 in the graph, just now we saw, if DBA revokes grant from U1 in the previous slide, if DBA revokes the grant from U1, but previously he gave with grant option, so that what U1 has done, U1 has given the authorization to U4 and U1 has also given authorization to U5, right? So if DB, now I am taking revoking instead of granting, I am writing revoke, taking the authorization update which I have given to U1. In that case, U4 will also not hold the authorization because from U1 I have taken that authorization back. Similarly, U5 will not hold that authorization which he received from U1. He will hold the authorization from U2, whichever is there. Whether it is insert, delete, update, I don't know. But right now, from U1, whichever authorization he received is revoked back. Okay, so that is a rule. So you can say property. If it is the situation, then grant must be revoked from U4 since U1 no longer has the authorization. Just now I explained. Grant must not be revoked from U5 since U5 has another authorization path from DBA through U2. Okay, so whatever U2 is providing, that will remain as it is. But the thing whichever is coming from U1 will be revoked back. Must prevent cycle of grants with no path from the root. Always take care that there is no cycle in your authorization graph from the root. Okay, so now suppose DBA grant authorization to U7. You can see here DBA to U7 in this down last line. U7 grant authorization to U8. U7 gives to U8 and U8 grants the same authorization again to U7. So here I am having the cycle U7 and U8, in between U7 and U8. Right? Now, suppose DBA revokes authorization from U7. This is revoked back. Then must revoke grant from U7 to U8 and from U8 to U7 since there is no path from DBA to U7 or to U8 anymore. Okay, this is when you are having a cycle. Now, same thing. To avoid this, now suppose I have already given, but every time when the DBA is taking it back, every further whoever is receiving, that I have to take back, right? So in that case, what we can have? Restrict and cascade. Okay, when we are writing the revoke command or revoke statement, you can specify it with two keywords. One is restrict and second is cascade. Now, the revoke statement is somewhat similar to grant, just the keyword is changed. Revoke privilege list on relation or view name from the user list. Okay, and these two words are added, restrict and cascade. What is the meaning of that? We'll see. If I am writing revoke select on branch from this as a cascade, revocation of a privilege from a user may cause other users also to lose their privilege, referred to as cascading of the privilege. By default, it is cascading only. So that revoke from everyone. We can prevent this cascading by specifying restrict keyword. Revoke same statement I can write instead of cascade I am writing restrict. Okay. So If DBA wants to revoke the authorization to use 7, in previous example, the revoke command with restrict is supposed to fail. Why supposed to fail? Because there is a cycle. So cycle should not be there. If cycle is there in there, then you will fail problem with the restrict keyword. It will not keep your this authorization which is given. Okay, so always remember the cycle should not be there in a authorization graph. And if you want the other person to keep that particular authorization with them, then you can use the keyword restrict. Otherwise, automatically it will take back all the authorization which are given. But while giving this putting this restrict as a keyword while revoking, use it very carefully. If you don't want to keep it with some other person, unknown person, because you don't know U1 has given to whom, U2 has given to whom, and so on. So it's better to keep it cascade. So this is about the all. If you want to revoke the privileges from everyone, just mention it all. If you want to revoke the privilege only, just public keyword if you are using, then all users lose the privilege except those granted it specifically from the DBA. Same privileges granted twice to the same user by different grantees, the user may retain the privilege after the revocation. Just now we saw U5 got the privilege. Suppose he got the privilege update from U1 as well as U2. Then from U1 I will take it back, but from U2 it is having, so that privilege will retain with the U5. All privileges that depend on the privilege being revoked are also revoked. All privileges that depend on the privilege being revoked are also revoked. So whoever you have given, all will get revoked. Last part from this is the roles. Roles are nothing but, you know that role we have studied, manager, worker, and so on, right? Those all are nothing but known as a role. Roles, right? So those roles also you can specify in place of user list. That is, just now we studied U1, U2, U3. So you can also write user list. So that, for example, I can say grant insert or select to read for you people. So I can say grant select on particular table name. I say on student, uh, not student, I'll say grant select on college. Then I will say student as a role. Student means all the student of my class, or I'll say SCIT role I have created. Create role as SCIT. So SCIT student can read my data which I have uploaded. So that way I can create data in my database that only this student can read the data. So that way you can also create grant the authorization based on the roles. So here first I have to create those roles if those are not created already. For example, create role manager teller, grant select on branch to teller, grant update on account to teller, grant all privileges on account to manager. So here manager will have all the privileges. Whoever is a manager now, all the teller person will have an update privileges. So likewise, now suppose I want specifically to particular username. So grant teller to Bob and Alice. Alice. So here I am specifying with the name. Here I am specifying with the particular role. So instead of username, you can also use a role name. That is also valid. Now next, granting the role name, that is role, whoever is role authorization I have given, same to these two possible. That is also possible. That is about today's session. We have studied assertion, then we have studied triggers, then we have studied authorization in SQL in detail. right? And for all these, I have referred the course book. Some slides I have referred from internet. You will get this slide and everything. I want someone to revise this part in our next session. Not in detail, just whatever we have studied. For example, you can talk. We in this module we studied about integrity constraint. Integrity constraint, and these are the integrity constraint. We studied assertion, definition of assertion, you can say. We studied trigger. This is the trigger definition. These are the difference between assertion and trigger. And lastly, we can use authorization, SQL authorization, where we have studied about the different types of authorization, such as read, update, delete authorization. We studied about the authorization graph, granting the authorization, revoking the authorization for the user as well as roles. This is just a summary of what we did. So now I want one person to revise this in our next session. Who will do that? See, every student has to come forward. So who will do that? I don't want the person who has already done. So Krishna has already done. Prathamesh, I think Shubham you have done. Anurag you have done.
No, ma'am, I have not done yet.
So you can take this opportunity.
Okay.
Okay, so next time, whenever we will have a lecture, Anurag will revise it just for this today's module.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. I had one
Yes,
doubt.
yes,
As you
Krishna.
said that we don't